Are you looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this football and basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/bluewire and use code BLUEWIRE. That's code BLUEWIRE at prizepicks.com/bluewire for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Pod Maverick. This is Pod Maverick's group therapy. We don't get to have any fun on this show, apparently. The Mavericks only lose in painful, upsetting fashion, which is what we're all here to complain about. Now, you might notice, for those of you who are tuning in live, we're a bit later than we ought to have been for a game that started at 6:30 p.m. But the problem was my co-host was on for our normal podcast after dark, was really heated and wrote an incredible recap, which I really recommend you pop over to Mavs Moneyball and read that bad boy tonight. He was really channeling his inner Kirk Henderson and just raged. It was, this was just a really upsetting game. Mainly because of the result. The game itself was actually a lot of fun. Back and forth between two very flawed teams. Without Andrew Wiggins, the Warriors are just not the same. But it was a game where Luka Doncic returned and Jaden Hardy absolutely popped off. Probably one of the most fun rookie Dallas Mavericks games I can remember, going back to the mid-2000s with Marquise Daniels and Josh Howard popping off, barring all Luka games, of course. But even Dennis Smith didn't have games that felt as fun as this because Dennis played with a lot of volume. It's just disappointing end. The Mavericks are under 500. They basically have a 3-game trip up ahead where they play Charlotte twice and the Pacers once, and they simply cannot afford to lose. They simply cannot afford to lose any more games that are in the winnable category. I mean, the Warriors just won their 9th road game. This was one the Mavericks should have won. There's really no other way around that. But instead, I worry we're going to talk about a call or the late, I don't know, was it third quarter situation involving the Warriors getting basically a free bucket because the Dallas Mavericks weren't paying attention. Apparently the Mavericks are protesting that call, which is just the biggest Karen energy. If you have 35 assistant coaches and players and people in the arena, when you see a bunch of guys lined up getting ready to inbound the ball, you'd think any of them would maybe go in and guard or protest or do something in game. But apparently that's just too much to ask for. I'm sure a lot of people really do want to talk about the refs. If you want to get off that take, understand I'm going to let you. I personally don't agree, though. The Mavericks shot 10 more free throws. Luka missed 4. The Mavericks had so many opportunities to win this game, and they just didn't take them. They got beat pretty soundly in most elements of the game, but because they outshot the Warriors from 3, they had a chance, and they should have won it. And I fear this team is not very good. Okay, coming up first then is my man Chris. Hey, Chris, what's going on?
Hey, so this morning I woke up, didn't have a Mavs ticket. I'm like, you know what? I want to go.
Oh,
and Luka, no. Luka's going to play. We're like 4 hours, like I said, 4 hours away. I'm like, I know Luka's going to play tonight. I didn't have a ticket, dude. I'm like driving, and like 3 hours into the drive, something pops up because I haven't seen any standard price tickets. I got one in section 118. Like, awesome. Okay, Luka's going to play. Great. It was actually a freaking great game. Besides, all the ref stuff and all
I had a great time. I was like so upset. I love sports where it's tense and you give a shit. This was fun.
Yeah, because no team really got above like 8. I mean, I think we were winning by 8 points one time, and same with the Warriors in the third quarter. That was maddening because when we gave up that bucket, I said the person next to me, I'm like, look, we're going to end up losing by 2, and that's just going to suck. What happens? We lose by 2. That's just one little thing right there, but still, there was getting out rebounded. Is Looney and Kuminga were just putting Powell and Maxey in the torture chamber, just like rebounds, and just these guys are like saloon doors. I mean, there's just the open way to the basket. It's very frustrating. We didn't fix it. We have JaVale McGee on the bench, and he's unplayable. It's the same freaking problems over and over.
Getting killed by the team that killed you in the playoffs the same way they killed you in the playoffs is painful.
Yes. And every second chance, every time they get another team gets a rebound or all those turnovers, it's almost guaranteed that we get a 3 knocked down on us. It sucks because Luka had a great game. It was like 30-something points, 17 assists.
If you want to, like we could really dissect elements of Luka's game 6 ways from Sunday, but if you want to talk about the highlight, that was Luka as an artist with passes. Some of the shit he did tonight was unreal. 17 helpers and only 5 turnovers. It helps when guys are knocking down shots. Obviously, Hardy really benefited in a real way. But there was one pass to start the third quarter that I think he whipped it to Josh Green in the corner that went through 4 Warriors. It was like a teleportation. It was incredible.
Yeah, but I'm loving what I'm seeing from Jaden Hardy. I know the season is a disappointment. We might not even make the playoffs, but I mean, I think we will. I think we're going to at least get in the play-in, and I'm just like, okay, 9th can seed, and then if you lose it out, then hopefully we'll be in that spot where the odds will be where we'll get our pick. We'll keep our pick, I guess.
Yeah.
I just don't want to. This is just frustrating. I want us to make the playoffs because I want to go to another game. So.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, but I don't really have much else to say. It really was a fun game to go to. It was very frustrating and all, but it's still fun to go, and hopefully we can catch some Mavs games in the playoffs. So.
All right, man. Talk soon. Thanks for hanging out.
All right. Yes, sir.
All right. Let's go to John next. John, it's been a while since you hung out with us. How you doing? Pull up.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, thanks for having me up. Hey, so I just wanted to point out that at the end of the first, when they put up that stat, like, oh, hey, Warriors are like 0-20 when they're like losing after the first quarter. I feel like so many Mavs fans were like, oh, no, why'd you have to do that to us?
Painful. It's like, don't jinx. Don't. It's like the old reverse jinx. Like, look, we're really no. The Mavericks are the team where streaks go to die in the good and the bad.
Yeah. Other than that, the other, like, obviously Hardy was awesome, right? So that was fun to watch. I mean, I'm just happy that, Kid kind of let him run, and then he had that moment in the fourth when he like hit a couple threes and he brought us back in it, and that was really cool to see. I mean, it's just cool to see him really like taking strides towards this end of the season. So, I guess that's the silver lining.
I agree. I think there's a lot of Kid criticism, which is legitimate. But one thing that I think we do have to praise him for is the plan that they've had to bring Hardy along. I said around game 35-40, I remember thinking, like, if you divide the season into 20-game quarters, if you need Hardy and you're playing him more in the third and fourth quarters of the season, so the final 40 games, and he's taking steps, that's about the most you could hope for a guy who's drafted 37th. I know everybody wanted him to play earlier, but I've got to give the Mavericks credit for putting him in situations where he could thrive. Now, if you're a person who thinks that he could have thrived earlier with more chances, I get it. I do. But progress is not linear. And tonight was just it's a really great feel good game. If I just really wish they would have won.
Oh yeah, for sure. Or just like what I think is like when they had the moment at the end of the third, the whole inbound situation, and the Lakers scored. I wish J Kidd would have like gone off and just gotten a tech or thrown out or something, right? I wish I could see like some emotion from him on the sideline instead of like around like he's still trying to learn English as like a second language out there. I don't know. I'm just so tired of his like straight faced looks, right?
I get
if
it.
he could get mad at the refs or do something to like spur on the team and like, try to motivate them, that'd be great.
Tyler in the chat wants to know, praising Kid for DMPing Hardy in games we lost where we could have used him. What the fuck? I hear you, man, but I'm talking in big picture terms. Obviously, I would have liked to have seen Hardy more in some of these games where they failed more recently, but I'm talking over the 82 game stretch. It cannot be properly stated. You need to go watch this guy's G League highlights from last year. He was a train wreck. That's why he fell. He was a top 10 pick at one point, heading into before the year even started. But the fact that they've managed to rebuild his confidence is huge. I mean, he looks like a confident player. It's good that we're clamoring for him to play, okay? That we need him is kind of unfortunate, but it's good that he's come along to the point to where now everybody can kind of say, with hindsight, hey, I was right about Hardy all along, if you're one of those guys. But, it's a silver lining from that very frustrating game.
Yeah, and I'll say tonight, even I saw some times when he got out on the fast break or some things where he's making better decisions. Like at the beginning of the season when he would get in there, he would try to he would try to go hard at the basket or take it in fast breaks and have some turnovers, and he's making smarter decisions. And I think without the way we brought him along, he wouldn't be in the situation that he is. So
sure.
Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks, Kirk.
Sure, John. Thanks for coming up. Okay, let's go to my man Ewan, who is probably pissed that he's up.
Hey, what's going on?
Just here having a adult beverage.
Yeah, man, I had a few drinks myself. I'm here in Florida with the kids for a little bit, so.
And you're still calling in. This, my friends, is what we call a loyal guest. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm not gonna really, kill on J Kid. I've been doing it all year. I mean, some of these games, it's a lack of talent, and it's just. I mean, I guess he tries his best with the lineups that he put out there. We could go back to the games early in the season where we felt he didn't have the correct lineup to get those wins, those small margins. But now as the season is, winding down, it's kind of like, I mean, what else is there really for him to do? It's like, what can you do with Dwight Powell? Constantly just tipping out the ball every time. It's like, we can't, tell him what lineup to start. I mean, I personally would just want Wood and Maxey to start. So in that aspect of you kind of like surrendering like the first 6 minutes, like pretty much saying that, hey, we're going to be out-rebounded. We may be outscored those first 6 minutes because of that Dwight Powell, lineup you have going, and Maxey don't have no legs. So it's kind of like.
It's who are they going to play? I mean, that's really what it comes back to. I mean, Wood, Maxey, and Powell, I think, combined for 11 boards.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's like we've said it in plenty of mass party or therapy. It's just those second chance rebounds always leads to like an open three, or it just always works out for the other team. It just always works out for the other team. But back to what the last caller said in regards to J Kid at least showing some emotion on the sideline is like, get fired up. Even if it may not be for your players, at least get the crowd more into it. Get the crowd riled up. Something, So
sure.
Rebounding, working out. Let's get, the crowd going. But the last thing is like, Luka's back. He looked pretty good. His leg's probably not fully under him yet, especially since that's where the injury was. But I just feel like you can see that Hardy, Luka, and Kyrie, of course, and maybe Tim Hardaway Jr. sometimes, like, those guys are not scared of the moment. Definitely, you can see that Hardy's not scared of the moment, And
I think that's true.
And, like, how you feel like in the fourth quarter, like, we know that Luka's going to get doubled every time. And as this game showed, it showed that Hardy, of course, was ready for whatever presented itself towards him. It's either making a play or, getting a shot up.
Yeah.
And just like the other guys aren't fully ready for that moment. Like, I don't know what it's going to take or at the end of the season. Because kind of like these situations have been pretty much every game. Luka gets doubled in the fourth. Other guys have to make plays. And it's like Christian Wood caught the ball at the free throw line and he froze. It's like,
that was terrible. It's so unfortunate that happened because he had played such a good game. He was one of the reasons why they were still hanging around. And for him to just totally free, I mean, he froze. That was extremely disappointing to me because it's going to be the thing I remember from the game about him instead of some of the good shot making that he had.
Yeah, because even like the possession before that, he had like a crazy, when he gathers and puts it up, he made that bucket. I was like, oh no, but he made it. I'm like, wow, okay, that was pretty good. And then, then you give Luka the ball, a few seconds left, and you got to force it up. And then Alex bad on Luka. It's like,
well, so the Luka shot that he got, I mean, you had to corral a tough pass, but at least it wasn't a step back. I mean, Luka's probably kicking himself for missing the shot that he did because he offensively fouled Draymond. They didn't call it, and then he just misses the shot after it. It's like, ugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, entertainment-wise, it was a fun game to watch, and like, I mean, can't blame on the refs because we have a lot of more free throws and stuff like that, but it's just the blatant calls that they see and don't make. That's what frustrates me the most. It's
well, like, the one that everybody's real mad about, the weird call, the reversing who had possession. What led to that reversing of possession was friggin' Kevon Looney horse collar tackling Luka. I mean, that was like normally I kind of be like, all right, Luka, quit flopping. Because I think he did later in the game when Draymond Green kind of elbowed him on a box out. But like that horse collar thing, that looked like a horse collar in football where everybody gets upset because it's like really shocking.
Yeah, and the one where he got elbowed in the face by Looney when he was going for the rebound and he had a bloody lip, the ref is like right there, like just make the call. Yeah. I mean, everything else is like kind of evens itself out, but those ones that stand out the most, especially when the ref is right there, those are the ones that get you, riled up, and it's to a point where it feels like. The way Luka was so mad after he got pulled back, he's like, he's going to swing on the ref. I'm like, don't do it, Luka.
Well, it's just, this is years of stuff, like, working against him. That's the part that I hate.
Yeah. I don't know. We have some bad luck. It's like anything that'll go bad will go bad against us. It's just, I don't know what it is. But, hey, hopefully Kyrie circle back and we could, have two guys being able to do their thing. But it's like Hardy should get playing time going forward no matter what right now because he's
I think that's true.
Yeah. All right. Till next one. Hopefully it's a win.
Thanks so much for hanging out. Talk soon.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Hey, coming up next. Ooh, we got more people joining the show. That's great. We'll try to get to everybody. Micah, what's going on, man? Getting to you early for once instead of at the end of the show. Micah a second to find that unmute button since he has a magical ability to mute himself after he is already unmuted. It's my favorite thing with my guy Micah. All right, Mike, I think it's because you're exiting and entering the show when you're kind of switching between apps. That'll probably be the big one. I got a special guest. We got Theo Austin Pinson, my guy. What's going on, Austin? How you doing? Got to find that unmute button. This is a good looking avatar. Just look at that smile, man. Pull yourself out of the chat and find the unmute button at the bottom of the app, Austin. That will probably be the best way.
I feel like I was on a Zoom call at work trying to look at the unmute button.
It's okay. How you doing, buddy? I don't know if you've ever joined us. Good, you guys should know Austin. He used to be at Mavs Moneyball, but now he writes for, I think, Dime. And then he also joins Tim Cato on the hilariously named 77 Minutes.
Oh, man. I love to be a part of the worst named podcast.
Oh, it makes Tim upset every time we talk about it, and that's always good.
Oh, yeah. Same. It makes me upset. You know what, Kirk? I have some takes to go after this game. Some takes that I don't want to get off on the other podcast because I feel like they're a little too spicy.
That's good because let me tell you, this is the perfect place for this. Jason Gallagher did it the other night, and so of our podcast metrics, they go down during losses, and then the live shows are also less listened to than the recap. So this is only for the true Maverick sickos. So you're great for. So let's get off some spice.
He's been my son for 5 years. I love him as a person, and I think he's a great basketball player. But I have grown very tired of Luka Doncic in the last few months. I've had a lot of gripes about the way that he's played basketball in the last few months. And one of the funny things about the Kyrie trade is that as much as, I mean, everyone has their, qualms about Kyrie off the court and that are very founded and very valid. But as a basketball player, I've really enjoyed watching Kyrie play for the Mavericks and the way that he plays basketball. And it's honestly highlighted a few of the ways that I wish that Luka played. And it's been a drag to watch him. Can I ask you, outside of the Philadelphia game, when's the last time you had a lot of fun watching Luka play basketball?
I mean, I would say his passing tonight was really, really fun to watch. But, like, game as a whole where it's like, it would have to be the 60-point game. I mean, it goes that far back because the Mavericks haven't won many games since.
No. Yeah, it's been like 3 or 4 months since it was like really fun to watch Luka. And it's not that it doesn't mean Luka is bad or like a terrible player, but he's just, I think he doesn't handle adversity very well. When things are going bad, he's not the person that you look to when things are going badly. And his attitude and his kind of demeanor in the way that he plays makes you feel worse in a game. And I think that's where they really miss Brunson and
100%.
Dorian. Like it's
because I think both of them would have attempted to at least walk him off. Like this is almost like year 2 or was it year 3 where Barea wasn't around, where there's simply nobody around to tell him to cut.
Yeah, like there have been a lot of times I'm like, bro, just please shut up and keep playing. Like and there's really Kyrie can't really do that. He's only played with Luka for 4 weeks. And there's no one else on the team that's good enough now, and that is like honestly, Brunson was that guy, and now that he's gone, it's kind of a tough watch. It's been a tough watch with Luka for a few months now, and I don't know. He's a great basketball player, but it is funny that that they've been 3-1 and honestly should have been 4-0 in the games that Kyrie played and Luka didn't. And it's not that they're better without Luka. It's just that he needs to adjust his play, and he also needs to, get in shape and be ready to play basketball games. I think he needs to grow as a leader.
Yeah.
On the court.
No, and Derek in the chat says this isn't on Luka. Come on, and it's like, what? That's not what you're saying. You're saying that Luka over the past several months has not been particularly I enjoy individual moments. But the things which are holding the Mavericks back just so happen, some of them happen to be the same things that are holding Luka back. Like you just can't talk this much to the refs. It doesn't matter if he's right.
And it affects everybody. Yeah, exactly. There were honestly a lot of times tonight. I think he got ref poorly tonight. I thought he got a bad whistle and he got a lot of bad calls. But you can't let that affect the way that you play the game. And it's honestly even affected the way that I look at Kidd, because a lot of times we're like, oh, there's this issue with Kidd, especially with the late game situations. And I'm like, a lot of the things that they do in a basketball game are because Luka wants it that way. I don't think people really understand how much that Luka dictates the way they play basketball and the rotations and the plays that they're running and how they play. A lot of it is on him, and because I think so highly of him, I hold him to just a higher standard. I'm like, I think you can be a top 15 player of all time. And if he's not playing that way, then I'm just going to judge him that level. They also can't defend the rim to save their lives.
I mean, those two things go, it's a chicken or the egg problem, because the rim stuff is so frustrating. It makes Luka doing some of these peripheral things much more annoying. And then Luka being annoying makes the rim defense feel that much worse. It really is just such a shitty situation, because it goes back to just the team building where they don't have options. I mean, it's really awful.
They don't. Yeah, and it's I understand the Kidd criticisms, but I also just I don't know what lineup he's supposed to play that plays defense. I think he's tried all of them. I don't know if there's a lineup out there that that can defend.
Well, I mean, they don't make single rotations. That's the debate. Robbie Calland, who is a writer at Up Rocks and an avid gambler, but sports. He basically said you make one pass against the Mavericks and you're open, and that's true, because every single person gets put into rotation, and they just have a lot of work to do. I still tend to agree with our buddy Josh's point that if you have two superstars everything else should be more straightforward. I don't necessarily mean easier, but straightforward. But that said, it's just like, God, they couldn't defend a chair right now.
They can't. And those are – you can't trust a team that can't get stops. Like, their team last year could get stops, and that's what made them so enjoyable. That, like, I'm a stretch of the game. You know that they could at least be where they were supposed to be and get stops. They just can't.
Well, I feel like tell me if you think I'm wrong here. I feel like that's where kids are a bit of a one-trick pony because playing hard is not a defensive strategy. And the Mavericks were so ground down last year by the end. And, like, I just don't think Reggie Bullock is ever going to be the same. I mean, he played like 700 minutes in the playoffs, him and Dorian both. And so when they try to do anything like that this year, they don't have the horses. And it exacerbates, like if we're bitching about Luka, it exacerbates something he's not really able to do. And that's not on him. That's a team design flaw as much as you would like to have more from him.
Yeah, and it's like they have Josh Green now, but it's still not enough. And even Dorian, to an extent,
Dorian was terrible. Like we're quite like we're all bitching like, oh, we want Dorian back. Dorian was ass. We traded Dorian on a high note.
Yeah, Dorian wasn't very good defensively. Even like I love those guys. Even Maxey right now doesn't look the way that he looked last year. Like today, he was not great defensively. And I think he still can get there. He's working back from a very terrible injury.
But he does the Maxey thing where he always does. Like tonight, he auto-rotated the ball. He didn't even look at the rim. He's like, I'm just going to pass this.
Yeah, and honestly, it was the first time kids subbed him out in a crunch time situation and let Wood play, which kudos to Kid to actually letting Wood play in a crunch time situation because that called for it today. But they've run out of guys, and it's honestly Nico's going to have to sign guys this offseason. They have to do a lot of turnover with their roster because they don't have the horses to do. I think Kid's scheme is actually a good scheme, and we saw that it works. And I actually kind of believe, and I like the way that he plays defense. But they don't have the guys to do it anymore. They just do not have the.
Well, you can't play like. You cannot play a scramble defense with Dwight and a drop coverage with Wood. Those two things are incompatible over time because it just allows this guy's in as the primary rim protector. We're just going to go at the rim. Oh, this guy's playing drop that we know that Wood's playing drop. Go at him. He can't stop you. And that's why they shot 27 of 32 or 27 of 33, whatever it was.
Yeah. I mean, they're basically at where they were with Carlisle, except now they don't have Kristaps. Like, they would actually – it's funny. They would actually be in a better place.
Well, your colleague over there, Mike Paolucci, I think he has probably the best team-building take on the Mavericks in the sense of they are 2 years behind the prevailing strategy on how to build a good defense or offense or whatever. And it becomes very clear because the Mavericks have all these single-use –
Yeah. They have a lot of team building to do, but it's funny though that they haven't really played a game with a healthy Luka and a healthy Kyrie at the same time, and I don't know if they're going to get.
I think that's right. I mean, Luka, the fact that when Draymond stepped on his ankle tonight was an accident, but he still stepped on Luka's ankle tonight. I was like, come fucking on! Can we please get?
Yeah,
it was so maddening.
Yeah, so it's a maddening team, and now they're going to play like the Hornets and the Pacers for 3 straight games, and I'm sure they might win 3 games in a row, and everyone's just going to be like in a great mood. But this team it's a funky team. I cannot remember a Mavs team quite like this in the time that I've watched the Mavs. It's maddening. They literally it's a team with no ceiling and no floor.
Yeah.
Literally anything can happen. If they won a playing game and they beat the Grizzlies in the first round and went to the second round, wouldn't be surprised. If they missed the playoffs and got a top 10 pick, I also would not be surprised.
Yeah. Well, did you have any other spicy takes you want to fire off?
Only that my Jane Hardy stock is I might retire now off of my Jane Hardy.
Well,
and Josh
I was
Green
mad
stock.
at you when you made a Roddy comparison last game. This was actually a Roddy Bobois-like game. Like that was 6 made threes is not nothing. He was really outstanding tonight. This was probably he has games with more points, but this was easily his most impactful.
I thought this was his best game. And honestly, there was a stretch where Kid didn't play him, and I thought that was honestly correct because he played badly for a few games. I was like, oh, he's a rookie. But they needed him to play well today, and he like basically matched Kyrie's output for a game. And he was good down the stretch. He got a big block. I felt bad that they didn't win the game because that was a great game from their rookie. That's probably the best.
I would have much rather talked about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's the best non-Luka game from a rookie that they've had since the Roddy 40-point game.
I think that's right. And then before that, like it's got to be like Marquise Daniels, Josh Howard territory, maybe Devin Harris. It's been a long time.
Yeah. So it's great that they lucked out. They got a good rookie, but they got a lot of things to figure out.
That's right.
It's not looking great.
Well, my man, I got somehow more and more people want to talk, which means I'm either pissing them off or someone else. So I'm going to bring on some more folks. Thank you so much for coming up.
Absolutely.
All right, talk soon. Okay, let's go to Micah again. We'll see if Micah's chat will function this time. Micah? 1, 2, 3. Give Micah a second here. Nope. Okay. All right. Brent, what do you got for us tonight, buddy?
You said this was the take our medicine year. How much Robitussin is left in that bottle, Kirk?
Yep. It hurts.
36 and 37?
Pretty painful after 73 games.
Yeah, and it's painful because we're watching a team play and we see these glimpses, these flashes of something that if it could just coalesce, there are elements of the team that are good enough, or are more than good enough. You know, we're looking losses we shouldn't have had, collapses that swing the team up into the standings where we, probably thought they would be. And it's tough to get those games back. In a way, this was another one of those games. This should have been a win, I think.
I think that's true. I certainly think that's true. But this should have been a win category. How many of those we got this year? 15?
Yeah, it's crazy. And it didn't feel that way last year at all. Last year, there were more of those, how did they pull that out of their ass kind of wins, instead of how did they piss it away?
Well, the difference, and Istok Franco posted about this today, where he's just like, man, the Mavs' bad injury luck continues. After Tim Hardaway got hurt against the Golden State Warriors, I want to say it was like January 28th, 29th, the Mavericks ran a 7.5-man unit for the rest of the year. And the only guy who missed significant time, I think, was Maxey, up until Luka got hurt against the Spurs. And that's just going to happen some years. The injury bug is not, it's not anything the Mavericks are doing wrong. I mean, the fact that with Luka's style of play, he's just, he's Derrick Henry. Some games he's just going to look super banged up, and that's part of basketball. And they've just, Kid has had to play guys more minutes than he wanted to. I mean, Kyrie Irving alluded to that after the New Orleans loss, where he played 41 minutes and then missed 3 games. It's really unfortunate. And I think they're going to look back at the season, and it might have been a take your medicine season, but if they won 4 more games, they'd be in a different place. And I think we would.
I think that's right. I also think that you can pin a lot of this, and a lot of people do when they talk about Brunson and that whole thing, but the moves, probably somebody better than Goran Dragic, they needed to make a move in the offseason or at the trade deadline to get a veteran third ball handler, a Mike Conley type, that could have taken the pressure off of the starting backcourt, whether that was Luka and Dinwiddie or Luka and Kyrie Irving, because right now you're still stuck with 2 guys that you trust from a distribution standpoint, and no other contending team or fringe contending team really only has 2. Ours just happen to be elite.
Oh, didn't hit the mute
so
button. Yeah.
The other thing I just wanted to mention, Wood had this deer in the headlights moment, and you were absolutely right to call it out, because if you guys hadn't earlier, I was going to. I was glad to see him get more minutes, but I think there's something that we might be undervaluing or underappreciating is the freelance nature of, we don't call it hero ball, we do call it Luka ball or Kyrie ball, but it is essentially, high screen and roll, ISO heavy, kick to the corners kind of offense. And that's fine. If that's what you want to run 80% of the time, 90% of the time, but you've got to have a changeup off your fastball. And Kidd has never implemented something that would give these guys, much less give the defense something else to think about, what a novel concept, but give these guys something to do other than to be scared and nervous. Because
yeah, but how much of that is on Kidd? I kick the shit out of Kidd. And if you take the ball out of Luka's hands, Luka's got to do something other than go stand and put his hands on his knees.
Well, I'm not even talking about taking the ball out of Luka's hands. I'm talking about motion. When Wood catches the ball in the high post, I'm going to have to go back and look at this play, and I might be wrong, but I think we had guys in the corners and no movement on the floor. And the defense was pretty well set. So Wood's options there were to either make a bad pass, dribble and risk getting doubled himself, or maybe drive to the basket. It didn't feel like there was anything obvious.
He did not want to drive to the basket. And like the scared money doesn't make money axiom is sitting in my head. Because he did not want the moment. And I'm honestly shocked because this is a guy who has looked sometimes he looks like absent of the situation where he doesn't really know the weight of what's going on. And that can really benefit you because there's less pressure. But just to watch him tonight where he went from probably being just that's just the play that I'm going to remember from him from this game. And I hate that because he was good.
He was, but you're almost like making my point for me in a way because we're talking about the last minute of the game. We're talking about the last meaningful possession on which the outcome of the game can turn. And Wood thrives in 11 minutes to go in the game, 4 minutes left to go in the third. It's just another possession. And so the pressure isn't the same. I think he would have benefited and the team would have benefited in that moment, whether he was past the ball or not. To have the changeup off the fastball, to have something that is a set play that puts guys in motion, that isn't just stand in the corner and hope that you get past the ball, because whoever does have the ball with 3 or 4 of our other players standing around is, unless you're one of the 2 superstars and can create, when it's the middle of the game, you probably can improvise, but it's too much of an improvisational offense. And this is why our out of bounds plays has sucked, into the game has sucked so bad, because I don't know if it was just Igor that had made it look better last year, but Kidd has had all season to implement those one-off possession sort of situations where the defense is going to be more set, more focused, more dug in than it usually is.
Sure.
And we don't have anything to in terms of a scripted catch them off guard maneuver where we have guys in motion. Because when you tell 5 players to do a certain thing that the other team might not be well scouted on, I have a lot more confidence in that if the ball's going to be out of Luka's hands.
But that's what's so difficult is Luka has to go along with this. He has to buy in. That's what makes Curry such an impossible guard, is because the guy just runs around without the ball and does things to get the ball. And Luka just hasn't shown interest in that. His off-ball situations are, I'm going to post up at the 15-foot mark. Occasionally.
I'm just saying, Kirk, it extends to when Luka has the ball based on what we've seen all year. And maybe for multiple years. It is guys standing, and you can tell based on where the ball is, they have assignments as to whether they're supposed to be in the corner. The ball went to the post. Now I move to the 45. Now I got to go back to the corner from the 45. Don't you think defenses know that shit? As opposed to the motion stuff that the Warriors run, or the really good out-of-bounds plays that Carlisle had. Are you telling me that Kidd's just incapable of implementing that and incapable of realizing that's a deficiency, and he can't hire a coordinator in the offseason to replace Igor so we have somebody who specializes in that stuff and implements it, or he doesn't believe in it at all and is this obtuse? Because the Mavericks are a very easily scouted and defended team in out-of-bounds plays and last possession plays when they can dig their heels in. And it's just mind-numbing to watch essentially the same thing happen over and over. And there was this variation tonight where Christian Wood got the ball based on the clock, and he's like, oh, God. And they're watching him. Like, hey, what are you going to do? And normally when we're looking at Luka and we're saying, what are you going to do? Nobody freaks out. Tonight, it's like, okay, Christian Wood, what are you going to do with 30 seconds left?
Yeah. I just wish he would have taken it.
There's more to basketball than that, man. There's more possible for this team.
I just wish he would have taken it at the rim. I do. I get it. Draymond's a good defender. Draymond's also 6'5". You're 6'11". Like, just go score over him.
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, what else you got for us, Brandon? Anything else?
I'll let somebody else talk, man. Have a good night.
Appreciate it. Talk soon. That's Brent of MavsMoneyball.com. He wrote a piece, which you can probably find halfway down the page. It was about kind of, we as fans want Jason Kidd to care as much as we do, and we're not necessarily seeing that. All right, guys, I am tired, but we got 6 of you left. I'm bringing on next my man Sean, who just hot take the shit out of the chat with Luka Doncic as a power forward, not a point guard, and he gets to come up here and defend that, as well as talk about whatever else he wants. Sean, talk to me. What's going on?
He's basically not. He's 6'8". He's not the most athletic guy in the world. He can't run around all game. I don't know. This roster kind of dictates that he has to be the point guard. And that's the problem. You really can't expect Luka to carry this team, which has basically no ball handlers. And that's where I'm going with this is Luka has to be the point guard because since day one, he's literally had no one else to go to. He had Brunson, which basically wasn't developed enough to play in the NBA at that point. He wasn't a passer.
He didn't have the freedom
pretty much had to be
that's
that guy.
for certain.
He didn't have the freedom. He didn't have the freedom, but we already know that, Brunson's not going to pass. Luka's the best passer. That's why he was given, that opportunity to do that. But at the end of the day, I've been saying this since day one. If you give Luka at the point guard level, he can't get around a defender when it actually matters. A lot of the guys in our team really just can't score or get to the basket when people are defending, which is they aren't athletic enough, which is why, honestly, I don't know the stat perfectly. I'd probably try to, look at stat news and figure this out, but I'm sure it won't tell you, but we're probably last in the league at, points in the paint. It's just, we aren't athletic enough.
Well, we don't have enough guys. I think when you're describing athleticism, what you're really thinking about is like guys that are dynamic with the ball, like being able to do something other than catch and shoot or like receive a layup at the rim from Luka. And that has certainly been the case this year. Last year, I thought they had a nice three-headed beast going between Brunson and Dinwiddie and Luka kind of doing different things while playing the same position. Luka did come into the league when he was at Real Madrid. He was not the point guard as much, but as he developed his left hand, he really, I understand what you're talking about, where the Mavericks might be able to figure out more with Luka in off-ball situations, but they really, Kyrie and Luka, I think, have played together like 4 times. We haven't really gotten to see a ton of those two together to make like a good determination of like they clearly fit. So I don't want to say they don't fit because the offense is like unbelievable when they're on the floor together, but we've not gotten a chance to see them do a lot of interesting basketball things together. So, I can understand this take. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I get where you're coming from.
He's definitely not like the stereotypical point guard that can, get around defenders easily, get to the rim, create separation at the rim.
You don't got to get around people if you can go through them. To me, he's basketball. He's like basketball Rob Gronkowski, where you get within 10 yards of the end zone, you're throwing it to him because it doesn't fucking matter what's around him.
Well, what I'm saying is kind of like, okay, so like, stereotypical point guard can do this every play for a game. Luka's not going to be able to do that. We're kind of expecting way too much from this.
Well, I think there's like the expectations around him are certainly an argument. I will say that the team has been built to a certain way, in no small part.
Exactly. That's kind of what I'm saying here.
But this is happening.
You should have other options. He can't do this for a whole season.
Well, that's true, but they also did it because he wanted them to. Like
Well, I mean, like, why are we saying this? You don't know what he wants them to do. I mean, you're not. I mean, they're literally doing it just because we don't have any other options. That's the only reason.
Well, yeah, but if Luka Doncic wanted Goran Dragic, for example, they would have signed him. He didn't voice his thoughts.
Well, I mean, if Luka wanted the ball all the time, then why would they want to upset Luka by signing someone like Kyrie?
Because halfway through the season, he's scoring six. He had in the Mavericks 7-game win streak, Luka averaged like 44 points a game, and they were barely beating the worst teams in the league. Like at a certain point, like you build a team the way that he has inclinations towards. Where it's like, all right, we're going to run everything through you, but then you can't win because of that.
Yeah. I really don't buy that Luka's running this team and Luka wants the ball
that's
all the
nice.
time.
I know it. Like, so if you don't buy it, that I appreciate that opinion, but I'm telling you,
I mean, I'm telling you, there's a coach or someone with a game plan around here somewhere that's drawing this stuff up. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. So you're watching this team, and that's what you get away from it.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he's not actually, drawing a game plan, but that's exactly what.
No, but it's like they're catering to him too much.
Exactly. I mean, you could easily draw play once in a while, to create some separation, create some space somewhere. I mean, that's not going on. It's just, 20 IQ plays. Give it to Luka. Let's go. But anyway, I'm done.
All right.
That's all I got.
Well, thank you, Sean. Appreciate you hanging out. All right. Still got a few more. Raul, you've been waiting a while. I'm going to get to everybody because we're feeling spicy tonight. What's going on?
Hey, Kirk, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, so there's a lot of things to say about the Mavs tonight, but I'm just going to try to stick to 2 points. One is, I know you mentioned Hardy and Kid playing him at the best times, but like he should have literally been playing since game 1 of the season. He's been going off his first game. I've seen him at the blue-white scrimmage, and I know that's not an indicator of how you're going to do in the season because JaVale McGee looked like Shaq that game. But,
I remember that. That was a good one.
But Hardy, like he looked special, and he was averaging like 30-some points in the G League with the Texas Legends. So I'm like, that's just one of Kid's many examples of like what is he doing? Not playing like Hardy even more. And the second point is just like so many people around Dallas nowadays are just kind of giving up on the Mavs with this losing streak. Like I'm a diehard. I'm gonna keep watching them. I watch the Mavs all season. I watch other NBA teams. I watch college basketball. I'm a huge basketball fan, and so I'm not giving up on the Mavs. It's like really hard to watch them nowadays.
It is, and it's only going to get harder with this Bally stuff.
Yeah, it's just super like it's literally the most stressful part of my day now. Like instead of being like a thing to come after work and relax to, like now it's super stressful. But like a lot of people, with kids coaching and other things, like with the team losing overall, I just feel like a lot of people aren't willing to watch the Mavs now.
I think there's something to that because there's a lot of sports options in the city, and the Mavericks are. I mean, the NBA kind of has a watchability problem as a whole. Feels like the regular season doesn't matter as much, and then the Mavericks, to a degree, played like that. And it's sort of a lot of teams, so it's a little bit. It's so disappointing because expectations really do lead to people being nuts, and I cannot say that I am immune from that. But you go to the Western Conference Finals and to have a season like this that has been so disappointing, I think is fair, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the hopes were high because I remember at this point last year, where I watched the Mavs, you had a small crowd, and then when they hit the playoffs, like obviously the crowd grew, and that expectation ran throughout the beginning of the season. And like now it's like nobody. I'll go watch the game out with people, and there's not as many people there. So I think the expectation grew during the playoffs. They stayed high during the early part of the season, even during football season. But like now, people are like kind of jumping off and trying to find other things to do or watch.
No, it's there's not a lot of momentum as they crawl towards like what feels like a play-in. So, well, thank you for waiting. What else do you got for us?
Just to finish off on this, I knew we weren't gonna have the same team as last year, just because the loss in Brunson, and then after the trade, losing DFS, which he wasn't the same this season as last season, but Kyrie's an upgrade, but I just didn't expect to be this far down in the standings. I was hoping maybe top 6, top 5 with the wide open West, maybe try to push for at least the West.
Yeah, no, this has been tough, but that's why we talk to one another and hopefully get through it as weird fans together. Raul, thanks so much for hanging out. All right, talk soon. Carlos, my man.
Hey, how's it going, Kirk?
It's going. Welcome to the show. What's going on?
I just want to say that this particular session feels like a post-mortem on the season. People feel like maybe we should rag on Kidd. Maybe we should rag on Luka. Luka came back and he isn't playing at the level that we expect him to. Maybe he's not a pure point guard, et cetera, et cetera. But maybe we should take a step back and say we're facing the team that beat us in the Western Conference Finals. Even though they haven't played great on the road this year, they're still a good team. The Mavericks still scored 125 points in regulation. They still had a good offense. They weren't bad. And if we look at the highlights of the game, we can say that they saw a lot of good out of Jaden Hardy. We saw a lot of good out of the big rotation, even though they didn't rebound well. We saw some scoring out of some of them. We saw some rebounding out of the others, and we saw so rim protection out of I don't know who. I don't know how to defend that point, but
that's okay. I mean, someone, our man in the chat, Ryan, just noted the forever famous Jason Kidd line, "No one died." That's kind of what I take away. I mean, there were some fun stuff. Josh Green was chaotically active in a fun way. Wood had some things going. Luka was, for as much as we got 17 assists. Holy shit, that was great. So
I know. I mean, it's not the end of the world. They lost to a good team. They didn't lay down and die. And I know that everybody just brushed over the fact that the protests over the misapplication of the rule at the end of the third quarter was just a showboating thing. But it was the thing that impacted the players and impacted the team at the time. I went to the game tonight and it just felt like everybody quit playing after the ball was ruled in the Warriors' favor. Nobody even guarded the inbound, and everybody just agreed that we got screwed by the refs. And that obviously had an effect on the players at that point in time. It felt like there were a lot of different factors, and they still didn't give up. So I don't know. I just feel like saying Luka's not a pure point guard and Kidd is the worst coach of all time is not really warranted after today's close loss to a really good team.
No, I mean,
has been bad.
The Mavericks I think the overarching thing, if I keep coming back to it, is just this team got to the Western Conference Finals. They identified one of the problems in the Western Conference Finals, and that was rebounding. And then they proceeded to not get anyone that could help with rebounding. So it's their path for victory is so narrow. I still think like they win these next 3 games, and like the Western Conference, even tonight, there's no separation. A 3-game win streak could put the Mavericks in like the 5th seed. It's preposterous. There's still some hope. It just sucks.
Yeah, well, nobody's dying.
That's right.
Nobody died tonight, so here we are. That's all I have to say. I feel like everybody feels like this is the end of the world, so that's all I had to add tonight.
Appreciate you, Carlos. Thanks for waiting to talk. All right. Let's go to my guy, Josh, who probably also wants to give us some hope because he's a beacon of light in this grumpy podcast. What's going on, Josh?
I don't know about that. I thought Carlos provided all the hope, light, and beacons in dark.
Sure.
I don't know if I feel that way, Kirk. So first of all, I watched the game at a bar and didn't really even notice what had happened in the third quarter because there was no sound. So I didn't really notice what happened. But I do have a question. But before I ask you this question, because maybe it's always interesting, like when you watch, like, for instance, like closely contested boxing fights, right? And then when you go and then you rewatch a fight without the sound, so you're not affected by the commentators, the fight tends to look different. And if you were scoring rounds, you would judge it differently. And this is something that I had heard, and then I tried it a couple times, and it's true. So maybe that's partially why I didn't notice that. But not to digress on that, which I've already done. You're welcome. Basically, I thought that I read the recap before I got on, and so I think Josh is right. The defense was so utterly embarrassing that the guy who was sitting next to me, who doesn't really watch the Mavericks, was just like, man, are they just like they've never practiced defense, like that's kind of like how it reads to people, as if they've never ever practiced defense. It's pretty nuts from an outside view. But I disagreed with Josh's take. Actually now I forget what I disagreed with, because that was a while ago. But my question, I guess, was I was more befuddled by the end of the game. I know the game was pretty much in hand for the Warriors, but we were down 3 points. Why was the inbound? Why did you throw the pass? Why was Luka under the basket when we were down by three?
Let me see here, because I want to go look at this again just to make sure that I'm not crazy, because I'm remembering element of the fourth quarter. So the Mavericks were down. Christian Wood, minute 16, makes it a 123 to 122 game. The Mavericks are down by 2. Steph Curry waltzes into a 2-point shot with 8 seconds left. The Mavericks call a timeout, advance it to half court, and they get a play for Luka kind of right at the rim. I think the hope there was to honestly just throw off what the expectations were. Because, we know the Mavericks, they have a inbounds play at the end of games, the Luka 3-point shot, step back from the left wing. And so at the rim, if the pass would have been a little bit more on point, I think there's a reasonable chance of Luka getting an and one. Instead, he had to catch it, gather, and then he goes into Draymond and doesn't get a foul call, nor should he have gotten one. Draymond was playing straight up and down. I think it was a little bit of that, just hoping. I don't know if the Mavericks had any additional timeouts at that point, because maybe they did have one. They had one full timeout. So I think the hope potentially could have been to make to basically make it a free throw shooting contest. They fouled Kevon Looney.
Yeah, but it was literally, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was 3.7.
When Looney shot that? Yeah, I mean, because like kid at 8.1 seconds, they get a shot off at 3.2 seconds when Luka misses the layup, and then so it's. I mean, I don't have a good answer.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell kid does half the time. I'm just trying to think. It's like
I was like, what are you doing, man? Like, just look, if it's scripted, then just get the three, because we've hit a lot of seemingly unwinnable threes in recent games, and Lucas hit a bunch of them. So that was surprising. But now I remember what I disagreed with. With Josh Bowe, because I love Josh Bowe. By the way, I'm actually a really big fan, and I love when.
Are we talking from his recap? Because he wrote like 1 billion words in that recap. It's my favorite.
Yeah, no, what I disagreed is that I'm sorry, but this game, and maybe it was different because, like I said, I was watching without the sound, but this game, the Mavericks fucking got hosed by the refs this game. And I'm not even including the thing that happened in the third quarter, because like I told you, I didn't even pick up on it somehow. I knew that shit was weird, but I didn't really pick up on exactly what happened. But watching the game, Luka was getting just battered.
He did. He got hit a lot. I agree with that.
And and I was watching the game like to also see, like, hey, are Golden State also just not getting the same calls? And to be honest, it was wildly lopsided. And that's why when I read ESPN and it said, oh, Cubans protesting, I didn't realize what he was protesting, because I was so upset that I was like, yeah, I protest this game as a whole, because it was literally like, and when Luka, and that's interesting because when Luka made that like finger where he's rubbing his fingers together,
I hate that. Hated that.
I know you hate that, but I'm telling you that as somebody who was watching the game without the sound in a bar with a bunch of other people also watching it near me, I was like, dude, no. They want the Warriors to be high-seeded in the playoffs. Literally, that's what I thought. I know that's a little ridiculous, and I don't know if I'm saying it wholeheartedly, but it was grotesque. I really thought the Mavs got hosed.
Well, there were a couple of incidents which really stand out that were bad no calls. The play where the Warriors scored the 2 points on that inbounds, what had happened before that was Luka got horse collar tackled by Kevon Looney from behind. That one was probably the single most egregious no call in the game. That one is that was real bad. I'm not gonna lie. But if you'll remember earlier, it was later in the game, Josh Green ran into Kuminga on a rebound, which led to a Jaden Hardy 3. Like, absolutely slammed into him from behind, knocked the ball out, whatever. The Warriors actually had 3 more personal fouls than the Mavericks. The Mavericks kind of got away with some stuff. Now, I understand why there are elements of this that frustrated. The refs did not have a good game. That much is kind of that is not up for debate at all. The refs didn't have a good game. But I'll just say that when the Mavericks shoot 10 more free throws and Luka misses 4 by himself, there's an element of this where you just don't want that to be the defining reason, because the Mavericks had some opportunities. Like, there was an overturned charge against Draymond Green that became a personal foul where the Mavericks hit a 3 after that I thought was a charge. Like, Luka slammed into him and he was not in. I understand why they overturned it. It's like a bang no like things like that. When you go through and you start analyzing all this stuff, it just can't be the one reason. It can't be the thing that separates it. You're right. That's where I kind of settled.
They were literally I couldn't agree with Josh more on the fact that the Mavericks were so pathetic on defense. And when I was listening to the chat earlier and listening to y'all talking, I mean, it's like, dude, you're right. Like, you have to build defense, and it's through trust, and just energy is not going to be enough. But also, like, just willing, if you just will yourself to, as a team, to refuse that the other team can score, you can go a long way with that. And God, it's been so pathetic. And this game was so pathetic. And I know Golden State's a tough match for that. But
God, it was pathetic. I mean, I was just like, it makes me watch the game and want to punch somebody. You know,
I do understand that because
what the hell is wrong with y'all? Like, just refuse them. And I know you can't do it all the time, and I know you'll foul too much. But at a certain point, sometimes you just gotta fucking also just be like, nah, I'm gonna foul y'all, and we're gonna put a stop here. But yeah, it also, Carlos was right that it's a close game against a team that's really been surging, and now they're trying to prove a point to win some road games. And what better team to prove the point against than the team you beat in the playoffs last year? So I get that, and that's fine. And it just sucks that the Mavericks have been in this hole. And also, I'll leave with this because I know you got more people and it's late as hell and you should have already been going to sleep. But I'll say this. I'll say that the Mavericks just, I don't know, man. I like the Mavericks with Kyrie and the team, and I like the Mavericks with Luka and the team. But I really don't like watching Kyrie and Luka both on the floor at the same time. I do not find it to be attractive basketball.
We've not seen enough of it, though. We've only seen like 4 games.
I know, and they haven't gotten a rhythm. But this is also a recurrent theme through Kyrie's entire fucking career, is that you never catch a rhythm with Kyrie, whether it's for his own fault or injury fault. There's never cohesion with Kyrie because he's never on the floor enough. And regardless of if this is that case right now, I don't know if I care if this is that case right now. I'm just saying that it's a fact that they're losing together, and it's a fact, for me at least, that the brand of basketball is less attractive than Luka with the rest of the team and Kyrie with the rest of the team. So I would just be like, fuck it, just stagger their minutes and let them both run the team. And then you constantly have an alpha on the floor. But, I guess you can't do that because the kind of like marquee type thing, which is more for marketing, is to have the two guys on the floor at the same time. But really, it's not an attractive brand of basketball when they're both on the floor together.
Well, they don't run enough actions together yet. And the funny part was LeBron and Kyrie never did either, but they still mowed teams down. And that's basically what the Mavericks have done too. But Josh, thank you so much for staying up late with us.
Yeah, hell yeah, Kirk. I'll be stopping in Dallas. I'll send you a text. Go Mavs.
All right, talk soon. Brandon, and then Sam, then we're going to go to bed. Thanks for waiting, Brandon. What do you got?
Man, it's good to listen to your callers. I mean, the crowd tonight, Kirk, they're feeling pretty passionate.
Everybody's like, that's a tough one to swallow. Like, I'm glad I did this not immediately after the game. I was so fired up, but by the time we came in here, I'm kind of tired.
Right on. Yeah, I see this game it put a lot of energy in a lot of people and took a lot of energy out of a lot of people. But just real quick off of, kind of picking up off what the past caller said, they're both ball dominant, but I guess I would hope that they would get some type of production, kind of like when, Bradley Beal and John Wall were together. They were both, kind of offensive guys that, they didn't really get along, personally, but on the court, they kind of, had good, good chemistry. So I would hope to get that out of Luka and Kyrie, but who knows? Like you said, it's only 4 games, so who knows? But Kyrie's such a intelligent basketball player. People kind of say that about him and KD, and I remember one time in the playoffs when I think he hit 50 or KD hit 50. So good players know how to adjust. And just kind of on the season, I mean, it's bad, but thinking back on kind of some of the past, some of the worst seasons, like Dirk's rookie year, it was bad. They had nothing but old dudes. I mean, they had Robert Pack.
You remember what the Dallas Morning News would do, right? You're old enough, like you're old like me. You remember what the Dallas Morning News would do during Dirk's rookie year? They would put side by sides of him and Paul Pierce's box scores.
Oh God, yes, man. I remember, That starting lineup
It
was bad.
was
That
because
starting
Dirk
lineup
was
was
playing
really
like
bad.
small
God,
forward. It was brutal.
it was like Kim, Nash, AC Green, Robert Peck, and man, it was real bad. And Kirk, I'm gonna tell you about another bad season when they lost everybody. You know, back in '87 when they had kind of like that super team. I think I could be wrong. I think Aguirre left first, and then it was like Deadlift Shrimp, then Sam Perkins, maybe Ron Harper, and I think Blackman was the last one to leave. And Donaldson had left also. Only person that has stuck around was like Mark Davis, and that's why he has, I think that's why his jersey retired, because he stuck around through it all, and plus he was one of the early vets. But man, it went down fast, and it was terrible. They rebuilt, after that they got Jimmy Jackson and Kidd, and they, and then they lost that team, and then it went to that '98. But that's just the flows of Dallas basketball,
It
man.
is. John in the chat says 1987 Mavs super team. Guys, for those of you who don't know, the reason the rule exists about trading draft picks in consecutive years exists because the Dallas Mavericks fleeced the Cleveland Cavaliers so badly that the Mavs is an expansion team. They went from an expansion team to being in the West Conference Finals in 8 years. That should not have happened with the talent that was in the league at that point. The Mavs just collected an unbelievable group of players because the Cavs were so stupid.
And remember, Dallas had drafted Mark Price that year and
That's right.
sent him off
I'm
to
convinced
Cleveland.
this is why the Mavericks fall in the lottery now every year, because they're paying for the sins of the 80s.
God, they are, man. But they had, I don't know, they had so much upside. But back to my point, it just goes like that. If you think they had the 01-02 team, they had a lot of veterans, but they still were pretty good. And then after they had their 10-year run in the playoffs, and it just dipped. So hopefully we'll see an upside again. Yeah. But I'm gonna keep watching. But just on the basketball part, I mean, I don't know. I'm just watching it now. Like, the upside is we have, Hardy. He's coming around. Green's coming around. And like I said last time, Luka's coming around too. But I'm also just watching teams that's pretty much just walk and score 2 points. And Chuck brought that up on the radio feed. He's like basically saying, here's Golden State with another 2 points. But they don't have the athleticism to trap those dudes. They don't have the speed to to really play man, and they don't have the defensive prowess like a Draymond Green or something to have somebody switch on zones that could really get from one place to another. So they got to depend on a lot of shooting, and luckily tonight guys kind of stepped up. So it'll be interesting to see how this part kind of phase out, but. Hopefully Dallas doesn't make the same. If Josh Green continuing to progress, hopefully they'll make the same mistake that they did with Jalen and kind of sew him up. Hopefully, next year, because I believe the year after next he'll be a free agent and be in the.
So this is a good. They locked him up to a longer deal because they did not give JaVale McGee the full mid-level exception. They kept a little on the side. So I'm pretty sure that Hardy is locked up for 4 years.
That's good, man. And because God, I don't know. Some of those contracts are just forever. Tim seems like it's forever. Bertans is forever. It's like Reggie's contract is forever too. And there's so much money on those contracts. I mean, they're gonna have to build from young talent because it's gonna be. I don't know who they could fleece to take those bad contracts. So
that's right. Well, thanks for hanging out, Brandon.
Man, appreciate it, Kirk. Take care.
Talk soon. All right, coming up, last but not least, an OG who has waited too long. Sam, what's up?
Oh no, you good, Kirk. I'll be quick because I know it's late. But to be honest, I don't really care about the game anymore. Like at this point, they lost the game, and I'm convinced they're not going to be no higher than 7 now. So like I'm kind of resigning myself to that fact at this point. So it's neither here nor there. Calls are bad on both sides. Like Mavericks got screwed. More like you said, that Josh Green play, like that was clearly a foul. He just ran into old dude, and they didn't call it. So I don't, it is what it is. I don't protest. Do what you want. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. But I think the larger point that we were kind of talking about earlier was with Luka. Now I want to compare him to Joel Embiid because when he came into the league, obviously he was hurt the first couple of years, and then when he started playing, he was doing his thing. Everybody was talking about. He was like, "Oh, he's the next Hakeem Olajuwon and this or that." And then they were getting to the playoffs, but they weren't really doing a whole lot. And then they got into the bubble, and then they got swept by Boston. And then after that, they said, okay, well, Joel was like at that point, I got to take things more seriously. They ended up hiring Doc Rivers, and I can't remember the quote exactly, but Doc told him, you can be the MVP if you just take everything seriously and just do your thing. And he did, and he would have won MVP if he didn't get hurt that year because Jokic won it. But I think he would have won if Jokic or if he didn't get hurt. So what needs to happen in the offseason is I don't know who is that person that could tell Luka, listen, bro, chill your shit. At this point, like I have to get.
I'm just not sure when we're going to get it because, as a couple of people pointed out, the Slovenian fans, and they're 100% correct on this, he goes and plays international ball, and he just doesn't get recovery and building time. He still manages a way to improve, like find a ways to improve his game, but he doesn't get that. There's not like that 3-month training period from Luka where he's getting his body together because he's always going and playing international.
And that's true, but even that, I think it's more of a mental thing because somebody could just talk to him and say, hey, if you can, because he has it in him because he always says the right things. He says he needs to stop complaining to the refs. He needs to stop doing this, that. So he's saying it, but he's just not doing it. Somebody needs to get into his head and say, listen, you need to say what you do, not do what you know what I'm saying. But you need to do what you say. Stop complaining because at this point, I'm a fan. Like, I love Luka, but that's just annoying at this point. It's like, bro, every time. And, with the whole money side things, like, dude, you just making yourself look crazy. Everybody laughs at the organization at this point. I see people on Twitter just making fun of the Mavericks because, now they're complaining about a game where they have more free throws and more foul calls. It's like, bro, what are we doing? It's just top to bottom. The organization is looked like as a joke. And that's why nobody takes it seriously because we went to the Western Conference Finals last year, and then look what happened. Now we're fighting just to stay. Hell, not even in a 7-8. We're in 9-10 at this point. And we don't have tiebreaker with Golden State. We don't have tiebreaker with Minnesota. We don't have a tiebreaker with OKC. So it's like we got to literally – if we lose one of these next 3 games, we're in the play-in if we're lucky.
Like, if that's correct, if we're lucky. Right. Because, they still got to play the Sixers one more time. Like, that's going to be hard. That's going to be a hard out.
We still got to play the Bulls who are trying to stay in the play-in in the East. And it's like, we still got these games that are tough. And if somehow we don't make the playoffs, I don't want to talk about Kidd at this point because it's just tiring. But I don't know if they would fire him. But it's like it's inexcusable. I take that back. It's not inexcusable because the roster's so damn bad. Well, Luka had to go Super Saiyan mode for half the season. It
was really fun. It was really fun, but we saw the limits of it. And that 7-game win streak was so much fun and so fucking fraudulent that I have a hard time reconciling it because the Mavericks, since that win streak, have gone. They went up. There were something like 6 games over 500 at that point because they were 1 game under when they started that win streak in December, and then they have basically there's something it's real bad. Because obviously they're back under 500. It's very upsetting when you think about this season in a whole.
Oh, yeah. And, that 7-game win streak was against some of the worst teams in the league, and Luka literally had to go off just for us to barely win the game by 5-6 points most of the time. So it's like I said it before, for the expectations, this is probably the worst Mavs season of all time, just with everything that's going on. And, Kirk, it's hard to care at this point, but I'm still gonna watch. I guess I'm a masochist. I have to torture myself, but
that we are. Man, thanks so much for hanging out.
Oh yeah, you have.
All right, anybody that's listening this far is really a hardcore fan. So I'm gonna let you all in on a little bit of a secret. So over the next couple of weeks, Josh Bowe and I are going to be trying some new stuff. We're going to eventually go to. We're going to be. We're here on. We're here on Spotify Live, but Spotify Live, as far as I understand it, might not be getting support in the future. I want to keep doing live shows, so what are we going to be doing? There's an opportunity for me to use a different live service, and we're going to be streaming probably through YouTube at a certain point. I've went ahead and set up a podcast feed, a YouTube page for Pod Maverick. I've not been able to necessarily search it on YouTube, but it is something that I am trying to put together and see if we can get something together there. I'll be sharing some more links. I'll probably do at least a few more of these and then be sharing the links in the show notes and that sort of thing. But I would be very interested if Ben in the chat asks if I am joining OnlyFans. Only Mavs would be the name of the show. But it will stream through, I want to say YouTube. StreamYard is the name of the service. I've seen some other shows use it. It's pretty fun. We can still do stuff like this where people come up. I'm pretty sure you can still do it through your phone. We'll be able to figure. Is there a chat? Jeremy asks, and yes, there is a chat. That was a key component of something I looked for because that's been my favorite part of this show, as opposed to Spaces. I know a lot of people enjoy Twitter Spaces. It is not for me. Is outside of being the occasional guest. I can't manage a show the way that we have done here. So we're going to be kind of like, it's not necessarily an expansion, but obviously you guys have noticed the show name change and the feed change and the photo. And so we're going to be trying some new things in that regard over the next several weeks and probably into the summer. We probably should have done this earlier, but you guys know Josh and I have day jobs, so it's like really hard to fit all this stuff in and still be able to not get killed by our wives. So thank you so much for hanging out. Be looking for me sharing some new options. Head over to Mavs Moneyball. Josh Bo's recap absolutely slayed me. It was so funny and good. You guys be good, and we will talk again on Friday night. Go Mavs.